Welcome back to the SSL Family Dad channel. Today we're just a little discussion about something that was on my mind. I'd like to get your opinion and get your thoughts on. I started thinking, what would I, if my 2023 self, if I could go back to 2020 or 21, what would I invest in? What would be the best thing? Because we've seen a lot of crazy things happen in the economy and with inflation and other things over the past few years. I mean, inflation has been as high as 8% a couple years ago, and I think last year and this year it's been pretty high as well, 4, 5, 6%, just depending on where you're at and how you look at it or what graph you look at. But inflation has been pretty high, and so and also we've seen a lot of crazy fluctuations in a lot of other things in the world. And so I thought, with what I know, what if I could go back, just a few years, what would I have invested in? Maybe you would invest in something like one of Elon Musk's companies. Maybe you'd invest in Starlink or SpaceX or Tesla or something like that. Those have been big successes over the past few years. Or maybe you'd invest in an AI company or a chip maker or something. Those have been pretty successful as well. But one article I read had an interesting idea. If we were to go back to 2021, one of the best investments that we could have made would have been in eggs. So it's kind of a strange thing to think about, but the price of a dozen eggs back in 2021 was just over $1. And so I actually have a dozen eggs that I freeze dried back in 2021. So this was freeze dried in April of 2021. In fact, that you guys saw this, I did a video on these. A dozen eggs in this bag. So this would have been worth just over $1. Earlier this year, in 2023, the same dozen eggs would have been worth over $4. In fact, almost $5. So in some states, $6. This would have been a really good investment. So you're talking about 3 or 4 times, even 5, 6 times the value increase in a dozen eggs. So maybe one of the best investments we all could have made. We should have gone back and just bought up eggs and then somehow preserved them, maybe freeze dried them or something else, and then sold them all to everyone earlier this year. Now, egg prices have come down quite a bit this year, and so they're back down to more normal levels. But still, with inflation the way it is, they still cost quite a bit more, about double. So you're still going to pay over $2 a dozen for eggs when these ones just cost just a little over $1. So this was a great investment. I can now eat up this dozen eggs in 2023 and have saved myself a lot of money. So I started to think about that. What other things could we invest in, and how could we plan better for the future? We don't know what the next 3 years are going to look like, whether they'll look better or worse than the past 3. Inflation looks like it's still going to be an issue for a little while. There's all these talks about recessions, which there always is, but you never know what's going to happen. And so how can we kind of, as homesteaders or as sustainable life style type people, what can we do to kind of even the hit of the economy and changes in the world? One of the things that I have found that is that we are starting to do more and more of, and that we're going to be doing a video on here soon, is really using our freeze dryer in particular as a food preserving device to buy things when they're in their highest season or peak season or at their lowest prices. So here in Michigan, in the early fall, so September and October timeframe, one of the best investments that you can make is apples. So this is a Honeycrisp apple. During this time of year in Michigan and a lot of your northern states, you'll see this is the fruit that is in season. And so they're going to be, all the orchards are getting into full swing. They're all the you pick signs are out. People are picking apples and they're selling apples on roadside stands, and apples are everywhere. Apples, apples, apples. So now is the time to buy these. Well, of course, you have to have a way to preserve them. You can preserve apples in many different ways. You could freeze apples. You can do purees. You can do juices. You can do freeze drying as we do here. You can do dehydrating, and there's lots of different things you can do. Make apple sauces and can it, that kind of thing. A Honeycrisp apple, of course, a Michigan apple. The best apples come from Michigan. So these Honeycrisp Michigan apples were $1.40 a pound that I bought right now here today in September 2023. Now, any other time of the year, just like the eggs from 2021 to 2023, any other time of the year, without inflation and without anything else, these go for over $4 a pound. And you'll see prices even as high as $5 a pound in the off season for Honeycrisp apples. So buying them now, buying a good bulk of apples and preserving and storing them. These make great snacks. They make, obviously, you can cook with them. There's lots of things. Apples are very versatile. Michigan apples, of course. There's lots you can do with them. And so now's the time to buy, preserve those things, store them away. And honestly, if I could, I don't know how many apples I use throughout the year, maybe I'll find that out this year. But if I could store and preserve a whole year's worth of apples, that would be, I'd save myself a ton of money, because these are something that we eat a lot of here. This is a kind of a staple around our house. We always have apples. So what else could we do to help save money with sustainability in mind and a homesteading kind of course, we can grow more food of our own and produce and store that, have more livestock that will produce meat and eggs. Chickens, of course, are a good thing to have enough of to produce all the eggs that you need. So, those kinds of things, as you raise your animals sustainably in your home, whether the economy and inflation, all these things change, it doesn't really bother you too much. It doesn't really impact you quite as much. Although your feed costs do get a little bit higher, it doesn't translate into the end product quite as much as just buying things from the grocery store. Obviously, apples aren't the only thing that are go through seasons. Lots of other fruits and vegetables, especially produce. If you're looking to get ahead on life at the grocery store in June, July, and September, prices on all of your produce, vegetables, and things like that are going to be a lot cheaper. Buying as many of them as you can and preserve during those months, not only are you going to get the healthiest food, you're going to end up again saving yourself some money, time and money in the future. But this goes not just for apples and eggs and vegetables and produce and other things. Lots of things that don't necessarily go through seasons, you might be able to shop around and find really good deals on. And so if you look at your wholesale places like your Sam's Clubs and Costco's and those kinds of things, look at your Kroger and Meijer and VG's and Walmart ads, whatever stores you have in your area, you find a real good deal on meat or other things and you can preserve it or freeze it, having a little extra on hand and getting those things more ahead of time, being ahead of the game, is actually going to save you a ton of money. Everything you buy today, if inflation continues the way it has been, everything you buy today, every bit of household goods that you buy today is going to probably cost you between 4 and 10% more next year or the year after. And so anything you buy ahead of time is just saving you money. So the further ahead you can get, the more money you're going to save. And it's almost like investing in the future, right? You can do that with other things too. Of course, you can look at sales on regular items like toothpaste and things like that. If I could get all the toothpaste I needed this week or this month for the next year, it's going to be potentially I'm going to be saving myself 6 to 8% as prices increase, as inflation rises. So the crazy swings in the prices of eggs made me start to think a little bit more about how I can better prepare. Now, I'm not talking about going crazy and digging a hole in the ground somewhere with all your survival food and going super prepper mode. I don't think that's necessary. But I do think we can make some smart choices and look ahead. Even though we don't know what's ahead, maybe things get better next year and inflation's not quite a big deal. But there's one thing for sure. Most things probably aren't going to be cheaper next year than they are this year. And we can be pretty sure about that, I think, just based on history. So let me know what you guys would do if you had anything you could do with your 2023 self. If you could go back to 2020 or 2021, what would you invest in? Would it be eggs? You buy maybe 1 million dozen eggs and bring them forward in time and sell them? Or would it be something else? What would you guys invest in? So a little bit of fun predicting the future. Your future self can come back and look at your comment that you're going to leave today on this video. What do you think will happen next year? Do you think next year, 2024, will be will we see inflation lower, and will the cost of goods start to come down a little bit? Are we going to see this recession that everyone keeps talking about? Will that ever come? Will things just kind of even out? Will it be the same? Will it be better? Will it be worse? What do you think? What are your expectations? What are your guesses for the future? Write your comments below, and then we'll all come back together next year and we'll check them out and see who is right. So just a little fun today talking about eggs, eggs and apples. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think. Let me know. Don't forget to hit thumbs up on today's video if you found it entertaining or informational at all. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.